Hello, Chris here. Doom Telly. Welcome to Green Sabre's Doom Telly, episode number 70. And it's competition time today. Yeah, I've been threatening this for a while. I was going to do it at 100 subs and then forgot and kind of thought, well, 100 subs really isn't anything to get too excited about. 200 subs isn't anything to get overly excited about, but I am anyway. So I'm going to do it. I'm currently at 202 subs. I did get to 204. But as alluded to in a previous video, I felt like a few of those subs might have been of the bot variety. And yeah, 2 of them followed for about 4 days and then fucked off. So yeah, but 202. So I've breached 200. So I'm going to do a competition. I thought long and hard. Well, I haven't really. I've just kind of robbed questions from various other places. But I thought that they kind of spoke to me as questions that I'd quite like to answer. So that's the reason. What's the prize going to be? Well, I was thinking at first, because I'm in like 3 fucking bands, I was going to do like sort of, you know, throw in like a CROWSBLOOD t-shirt, CD, Green Sabre t-shirt, CD, ask politely if I can maybe throw in a GODTHRYMM CD or t-shirt into the mix and so on, which I'm sure I probably can. But I then thought, for most of you that follow me, and because you're all ace, most of you have sort of gone out and bought the CROWSBLOOD stuff and the Green Sabre stuff and already know of the GODTHRYMM stuff before I was a part of it. So it's likely that the majority of you that are entering this competition will already know about it. So I'm going to go for the prize. I'm just going to stick 30 quid in someone's PayPal, basically. Will be my prize. I was going to do 20 because it ties in with the number 2. But I thought, don't be a fucking skinflint. And also, will be alluded to in one of the questions coming up. What can you get with 20 quid these days? Not much, so 30. You know, let's not go berserk. It's only a 200 subs competition after all. So yeah, 30 quid in the winner's PayPal. So, but anyway, let's do band updates first. Not that there's much to report. On the GODTHRYMM front, I'm still recovering from the recent tour. I've got like the tour blues as such, like when you've been away and had such good crack and it's been such a good time, you get withdrawals from, I can see why people get right into this kind of thing. So yeah, so I'm sort of getting tour withdrawals as such, but it was a fabulous time. It was great. But besides that, really, we've not done a massive amount, but writing for the next album has started in earnest. There's been the odd idea here and there, pinging back and forth, but that is all I will say on that matter. So writing's begun for the next album, which we're hoping will be due next year at some point. So watch this space. CROWSBLOOD. Again, just rehearsing as is, getting stuff together. We're not rehearsing this week because Lee can't make it. He's got to work late and stuff. He's being kept against his will by the evil empire that is the company that he works for. So, you know, free Lee Baines. Let's wish him all the best. But yeah, we're not rehearsing this week because of that. And Green Sabre will finally be back in the rehearsal studio this coming weekend. With long story short, it took us a while we moved out of the old place. It took us a while to officially sort of work out what we were going to do regards this new place as such. It's all sorted. Then it took us a bit to get the gear into there. The gear's in there. And then it took us a bit to choreograph fucking weekends at when we can do it. So anyway, this weekend coming, Green Sabre are back at it, back at rehearsal. So yeah, it's nearly been a couple of months nearly. Or I want to say at least 6 weeks. Between anyway, it's been a while. So yeah, those are the band updates. So let's get back to the competition. So yeah, I've done a few 4 questions. The multiples of 2 as such, like 2 because it's about 200 subs. 2 is the key number here. Now, like I say, I'm not going to ask you for your 200 favourite albums because that might go on a while. So I've stuck with 2. I think there are 4 questions in total. I did make some notes, but I've forgotten to put my notepad down here. So let's see if I can remember them. So question 1 is going to be, name 2 albums that you love that have formed the music that you're into now. So let me just try and fucking get that a bit more coherently. Question 1. Give me 2 albums that have formed your musical taste as such. 2 of the most important albums in your life, essentially. I'm going to quickly rattle through my answers just so you can see them, but let's not get bogged down in detail. So, 1, straight off the bat, I've mentioned this loads of times. This was the catalyst. This was the light bulb moment. Yes, I'd already started listening to sort of rock, like Van Halen and Whitesnake and Deep Purple, Def Leppard, probably Deep Purple in amongst there, and stuff like that. They'd been on my radar for a little bit, but it wasn't until a mate of mine did a 90-minute cassette up and said, if you like that stuff, listen to this. This changed my life. This is where it all began, or certainly the dive into more extreme metal. Now, I know you're thinking, I made that extreme metal. No, they're not. But all the bands that were influenced by the likes of Maiden, it just, it took off from there. So this is probably arguably still the most important album in my life, because it changed my life musically from that point onwards. So Iron Maiden's Live After Death, with the best version of Rime of the Ancient Mariner on it, I personally. The second one, and you all know what this is going to be, just Cathedral's Forest of Equilibrium, of course, just such an important record to me, because this was, doom metal has kind of shaped my metal life, certainly sort of musically, in reality, from a musician's point of view, as such, like being in bands. Doom's the most important, and it's this album that made me finally get it. I didn't quite get it at first, but yeah, I get it. I more than get it now, and this is probably the most important doom metal album to me of all of them. Yeah, there are ones that were probably held in higher esteem from bands that were more consistent than Cathedral were, because I've made it quite clear that I feel that this band, although this is my favourite album ever, arguably, I feel like this band drops off a cliff after Adam Leon left the band. I just don't think they were as good, remotely as good, personally, after the Static Magic EP, which was Adam's last contribution to them. But yeah, so the 2 most important albums in my life and that have shaped me musically, Cathedral's Forest of Equilibrium and Iron Maiden's Live After Death. Okay, question 2. Give me 2 bands' second albums that are your favourite in their discography. Now, I understand there's quite a few choices I could have gone with this. Danzig 2, for example, that I still think I might just prefer slightly over 1. But it's that close, it's hard to be definitive on it. So I just went with obvious ones, and the ones that you will likely already know from watching my videos. This, of course, which is, I love My Dying Bride. I love almost everything they've done. But this is still absolutely head and shoulders above all else in their catalogue for me. It is absolutely faultless from start to finish. It is faultless. It's a 10 out of 10 record. Everything works. Everything, just the atmosphere, the sound, the production, the vocals, it's just the riffs. It is magnificent, and it will always be my favorite. I mean, barring a miracle and them, well, they'll need to sort of get back at it at some point if they're going to produce another album of this calibre, but it's been a while. But yeah, this is comfortably my favourite record of theirs. Turn Loose to Swans, My Dying Bride's second album. Another band's second album that is my favourite of their entire discography thus far is this, Carcass's second album, Symphonies of Sickness, which, yeah, like I've mentioned lots of times, this album feels like the bridge between their original old sort of grindcore-y death metal sound and the newer, more polished death metal, death and roll sound. This is that gateway, and I think that's why it ticks all the boxes for me. I think some of the strongest songs are on here. There's still a slight sort of daftness to them with the song titles and all that, and I just, yeah, it is... There's some that have come mighty close. I've been on a bit of a Carcass binge again of late, actually, funnily enough, and Necroticism, what a record. Heartwork, what a record. After that, I would argue there's maybe been more songs here and there, as opposed to full, consistently good albums. But this is the master of them all for me, and still my favourite Carcass record, and their second one. Question 3. 2 albums that initially you did not like at all, but you've since learned to love. And I could arguably have put Forest Equilibrium in here, but it wasn't the album. I'd seen them live, Cathedral. They were support to Morbid Angel, and I'd gone there for Morbid Angel. It was always all about the fast death metal for me back at that point, so I couldn't quite get my head around how fucking slow it was. I clearly changed tact on this one. But for this question, 2 albums that you did not like at first, that you grew to love. I went more down the straight and narrow of the question. 2 albums that you did not like at first. Firstly, this. Mr. Bungle's debut. Self-titled Mr. Bungle. I loved Faith No More at the time of hearing this, and it did not work for me. It felt like it was wacky for the sake of it. I would argue that this album still feels a bit wacky for the sake of it. It wasn't until I heard Disco Volante, the album that followed this, that I got Bungle. I was like, all right, okay, which a lot of people will probably think, God, that's weird. This is way more accessible than Disco Volante is. And yes, it is, but I think Disco Volante is subtler in its approach. I know that sounds fucking daft when you're talking about Mr. Bungle and subtle in the same sentence, but it was just overly daft, was this album, and that is not what I wanted at the time. And it took me a while to get my head around this. But get my head around it, I did. Like I say, Disco Volante and California are both better records than this for me, personally, in the Bungle back catalogue. But I've learnt to really, really appreciate this over the years. Sort of more so recently as well. But at first, I did not like it. The second album of 2 that I did not like at first at all, but I've grown to love, is this. And I've only got it on CD. Dark Throne, A Blaze in the Northern Sky. Not just Dark Throne, black metal in general, I did not get at first. When the Norwegians, the second wave, if you want to call it, the second wave black metal stuff, when this hit the scene in the early 90s, I could not get my head around the lo-fi approach to everything. It just all sounded like, I was like, the fuck, I can't make anything out of that. What on earth is appealing about this stuff? All the stuff that went on with the Norwegian scene as well, I just remember thinking, is this just not a lot of nerds just trying to one-up each other? It all just felt a bit forced, contrived, but, you know, the more you read into it and the more you learn about it, they were it was nerds trying to one-up each other at the end of the day, but they were 100% sort of behind it. They fucking meant it. Not that that makes it any better or stuff, but there was a sort of visceral, vital nature to it that just went over my head at first, and it was coming back to it years later. I've told the story many times that it was Emperor's in the Nightside Eclipse album that made me realise, oh, hang on, I can get into the more symphonic nature of what Emperor were doing. I think probably tipped that, and the fact that the production was had a little more clarity to it, a little more sort of straight up death metal, which was the stuff I was listening to a lot of at the time. But yeah, when this first landed, and sort of this in particular, I remember because this was the album that immediately followed their debut Soulside Journey, which was a lot more death metal, but also I was not a fan of that, and I'm still not really. It sounds a bit wishy-washy to me. It's a bit kind of, you can tell the hearts weren't really in it personally. Whereas this, the more you listen to it, you know that this is what they wanted to do, so this is where they went. But it made absolutely no sense to me at the time. It was just a nonsense. But I absolutely fucking love it now. I flip between the 3. I mean, Panzerfaust is a fantastic record as well. But my favourite, Dark Throne, I tend to hate them's great as well. But I tend to flip between this, Funeral Moon, and Transylvanian Hunger. That's my favourite. This has been my favourite for ages. I don't know whether it might be Transylvanian Hunger just slightly at the minute, but like I say, I flip-flop between the 3 of them. Hated it at first, love it now. Dark Throne in the Nightside Eclipse. The final question, 4 questions of 2, got to have a nice multiple, couldn't have 3 questions of 2, and so my final question is more a fucking moany whine type thing. Question 4 is, give me 2 things that grind your gears that you hate about collecting in the modern era, in the current age. What is it you really that has put you off collecting, that's made it a less fun experience these days compared to how it was when you started? Now, I started years ago in vinyl, collecting vinyl, where it was just like it was the best format to get. CD had only just sort of recently come on the scene, and it was expensive. So it was really, your main choices were cassette and vinyl. And the pictures were, the artwork was loads bigger. So I started with cassette and then quickly moved to vinyl. Anyway, long story short, I lost all my old vinyl collection. And in 2015, started collecting again. 2015, I'm sure it was around that sort of, just started getting back into it again. And for those first couple of years, it was great. It was just like, you remembered the love of getting all back into it again. But these days, what is it that annoys me? Now, I suppose the obvious thing, and I'm going to try and steer away from that, but I haven't really, is the cost of it. The cost is fucking insane these days, and it is just really off-putting. I cannot abide. Like, the average price of, like, a single record these days is sort of going up near approaching 30 quid in a large amount of cases. A double album, you're looking at near 40 quid. 30 and 40 pound for a bit of music, essentially. Now, I'm not going to go down the road of sort of saying that you should get it all free and all that kind of thing. But anyway, the cost, I think, is a very obvious thing. So I've tried to sort of, I've gone a bit more nuanced in my answers of this one. So 2 things that really annoy me about vinyl collecting, CD collecting, physical media collecting these days. And the first one is multiple variants. I mean, let me just sort of look at this. This is a modern sort of repress as such. This is a kind of splattery. And yeah, I'm a fucking sucker for it, clearly, because I've got all these. But like, your multiple variants. Me Symphonies is this one that we've got here. So, but I feel like there were a few variants that have come out. The original presses of classics like these go for insane amounts of money. So it's helpful sometimes to be able to get a variant. But when you get certain albums that they bring like 4 million colour variants out of particular records, and it's just crazy. You don't need that much choice. You don't. If you're going to reissue stuff, fair enough. Stuff it does need reissuing because the price of the original is so off-putting. So I understand the need for a reissue, but if you're going to reissue stuff on vinyl, do one in black and maybe one in a snazzy colour. Don't do a black, don't do a clear, don't do a white, don't do a splatter variant, don't do a fucking merge variant. There's like 12 different fucking variants just on vinyl, and then you get your CD press of it as well, and now you get your cassette press of it, and so on and so forth. Stop milking the consumer. You don't need that many variants of stuff, because I know people that will go and collect, if it's a particular album that's close to them, they'll go and collect every damn variant out there that there is. I mean, I don't know where they're putting all these, because I struggle with the minimal space that I've got behind me. So yeah, the ton of variants. So another part of that really fucking annoys me these days as well is when you get a limited variant of a particular album that's come out, not just a reissue, like a new album, where it will be the vomit, splatter, merge, fucking blah, blah, limited to 100 copies, that for reasons unknown is £5 more expensive than all the other releases. There's no fucking, that didn't cost you any more to produce than all the other 1,500 variants that you've just done of it. Why is the limited one more expensive? To rinse the consumer, and it fucking drives me mad. So yeah, that is my first thing. What I find of the modern collecting experience to be really annoying, and I think a part of it is it's really annoying, is because that's what they tap into. They tap into your need to have it. So they know what they're doing, clearly. But yeah, that grinds my gears. The second thing that grinds my gears with a lot of stuff is, besides all the physical media that I own, the majority of my listening tends to be done digitally. It's on my phone. It's when I'm on the move, on the go, in the car. That's when I get most of my listening done. It's not sat here in front of the deck with my headphones on, immersing myself in the artwork. It isn't. I mean, I've got a small child in a small house, and it's hard to find time to do that. So the majority of my listening tends to be digital. So not only have I got the cost of all these sort of physical things, I've got the need to have it digitally as well, so I can actually listen to it regularly. And what I cannot stand is, with all these physical releases of stuff, there is absolutely zero excuse not to give you a free download code of that stuff. Bandcamp's great at doing that, because if you buy anything physical, you get the download, which is why I would, from my own personal perspective with the bands that I'm in, I would encourage anyone to go via Bandcamp to get it, because you get your physical release, and the artist is getting more of the money, crucially, but also you get your digital copy with it. And there are a few, like the Back on Black series and stuff like that, and a couple, not many, but the odd label here and there, where you get a download code with the physical media. But it is not a regular thing, and I think it should absolutely be a fucking staple of any physical release, should have a download code with it, without question. Otherwise, I'm having to, well, unless you do it illegally, I'm having to purchase that album, twice in any one go. So it is not on. So those are my two bugbears. Right, 20 odd minutes. Let's wrap that up. So this is my competition. I'm going to keep it open for a while, maybe a month, 6 weeks, something like that. It'll be somewhere around the middle of October, back end of October, that I'll probably close this competition, just to give everyone the chance to fucking see it. You'll need to tag me into your entry with it, otherwise I'll lose track. So I want to see your videos of the answers to these 4 questions. Don't necessarily, if you don't do videos, then feel free to fire it in the comments down below, your answer to this. And yeah, so question 1, 2 albums that absolutely changed your life musically and that still today you love. Question 2, a band's second album of their discography that is your favourite of theirs, 2 of. Question that I'm going to write all these questions down below anyway, so you can see them all. Question 3, 2 albums that you did not like at all at first, but have since grown to love. And question 4, the one that I've just been ranting about, 2 things that really piss you off about collecting physical media in the modern age. So those are my 4 questions. Thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing. If you didn't subscribe, I wouldn't have this competition to do. So, like I say, there's 30 quid in it, PayPal. I'll just do like a PayPal transfer to the winner that gets drawn. There'll be a fancy draw. Like I say, probably sort of back end of October. I'll keep it open for a bit, just so people have got plenty of time to enter into this competition. And if there aren't many entries, then I'll have to maybe reassess later on in the day, but see how it goes. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I probably won't do a competition until we're at 500, so you need to sort of tell everyone to get into the subscribing. Like, it might take a while, since getting to 200 took a while. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. The next video, I promise you, will be the pickup of my decade of great metal albums, sort of like my 6 for 1989. That's going to be the next one, next week though. But until then, thanks for watching, and I will see you all soon. Ta-ra.